Hi there, and welcome to the Entrepreneur's Therapist podcast. I'm your host, Shula Meet Bear Lev Tov, and I'm the Entrepreneur's Therapist. You can call me Shula for short. My pronouns are she, hers. This is the podcast for business owners, solopreneurs, micropreneurs, freelancers, and self-employed folks who want support for riding the emotional roller coaster of running a business. I'm on a mission to mitigate the entrepreneurial mental health crisis and transform the entrepreneurial ecosystem to include the whole human founder as a business priority. I do that through this podcast, of course, and also through speaking, teaching, and consulting, and by working one-on-one to support women business owners to prevent burnout and preserve their peace of mind as they ride that emotional roller coaster of running a business in this era of relentless stressors that can make you want to lose your crap on the daily. This podcast is being recorded on lands that have been stewarded for 10,000 years and to this day by the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. Land acknowledgements are calls to action from Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And so my land acknowledgement is your call to action to find out whose land you're on and to share that with others and to take what other actions you can toward reconciliation, because the harms caused by settler colonialism are ongoing. Today on the Entrepreneur's Therapist podcast, I'm talking about VUCA, V-U-C-A, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. We often hear that we have to be resilient as entrepreneurs, and yet our resilience as business owners is subject to a pummeling on a regular basis. And if you're listening to this in May, June of 2024, like the first 5 to 6 months of this year, holy crap, they've been rough. And just a little side note, if you're having a reaction to the term resilience, you might want to read what I've written about what I mean by resilience. The link is in the show notes, and the link to the show notes is in the description below. And as I was learning, researching, writing, and training around resilience, I came across this concept of VUCA. As I said, it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And this acronym and those words were an accurate representation of the conditions that I faced as a business owner in the past and to this day, and that make it hard to be resilient. This acronym, VUCA, originated from leadership theories and was coined in 1987 to refer to the conditions experienced by leaders. But entrepreneurs are leaders for themselves and for their teams. So it applies to us just as much as to any other leaders. And the most recent and extreme example of VUCA in the lives of entrepreneurs has been the COVID pandemic. It was sudden. The data and directives were constantly changing. The path and its impact were unpredictable. There were many, many forces at play, and it was hard to get a read on things. And you might remember how hard it was to be resilient at the time. But we women entrepreneurs face VUCA every ding dang day, right up to the present moment, along with constant adversity, challenges, decision-making, problem solving. We're always facing new and ever-changing conditions, and we have to wear all the hats, CEO, bookkeeper, public relations, marketing, admin, customer service, all that. And so being resilient is often a challenge. VUCA and all the other stressors in business take their toll, and the result is cognitive fatigue and the depletion of our physical and emotional resources. And it's hard to thrive under those conditions. It's really hard to be resilient, but it is possible to build your resilience muscle so the toll isn't so high. Resilience skills, as a side note, will not make you feel happy no matter what, but they will help you shift your relationship to adversity. You'll be able to address it better. You'll have skills and resources that enable you to say to yourself, even though things are tough, I have what it takes to make it through, and believe it. That's called realistic optimism, and I have a whole post about this. Again, the link to that is in the show notes, and the show notes link is below. There are a great many factors that contribute to the human capacity to be resilient, including beliefs we hold of the world, ourselves, and others, the information to which we have access, biases, skills, and education, mental processes, and behaviors, not to mention what we've been through in our lives up till now. In Australia, a group of positive psychology researchers took a holistic look at resilience, and they defined resilience using neuroscience research. And they developed the Predictive 6 Resilience Scale, PR6 for short. And according to their definition, resilience means advancing despite adversity. And again, I've written more about this on my site, in my blogs, and the link to more information about the PR6 and what it means to advance despite adversity is linked in the show notes. The PR6 researchers identified the skills that are involved in advancing despite adversity and grouped them into 6 distinct domains that explain the specific skill factors a person can cultivate to become more resilient. So once you understand the components of resilience, you can cultivate your skills in each of these areas. And in the show notes, there's a free download. You don't even have to give your email address. You can just click and download more information and reflection questions and resources to help you to assess your resilience skills and support you in developing the skills you have and adding to so that you can fill in the gaps. And so I'm going to outline the 6 domains of resilience and tell you a little bit about them. So the first domain is vision, and this includes goals, clarity, and congruence. So by goals, we mean the sense of purpose, goals, and personal vision for yourself. This is the domain of vision overall. And this is the most important of the domains because all the other domains are guided by what it is you want to achieve. In other words, your vision. Clarity. So the vision domain is about having clarity so that when things get tough, you know what's important and what isn't. So you can stay focused, set priorities, and achieve your goals. And congruence means that all your actions are working together across your larger vision of yourself and your sense of purpose through your medium and short-term goals. The next domain is composure, and that includes emotional regulation, self-awareness, and mindset. Now, in the PR6 model, emotional regulation has a specific meaning. It means being able to care for your emotional responses so you can maintain your composure. So there's a little bit of what I would call tyranny going on around emotional regulation right now. The assumption is that if you're emotionally regulated, you're composed. And, if you're not composed, you don't have your composure, you're displaying emotions that are bothering others. It's like, go sort yourself out, go get regulated, and then come back. And what's really the heart of emotional regulation is being able to be aware of what's happening with your emotional responses and respond to them, care for them, so that you can regain and maintain your capacity to take the action steps you need to take. And those are action steps in your business as well as action steps to take care of yourself. Self-awareness in the composure domain is the ability to connect with your inner life. And so you can see how self-awareness is connected to emotional regulation, which ultimately leads to more composure. And so your inner life, being connected with your inner life, your thoughts, feelings, sensations, and emotions allows you to recognize, understand, and act on the internal prompts that are coming from your inner life. And being able to recognize, understand, and act on them is really at the heart of resilience. Mindset in the composure domain has to do with how we think about things. Understanding and working with our thinking processes can have a significant impact on our capacity to advance despite adversity. Understanding the link between how we think about things and how we evaluate things affects our emotional regulation. And that's how we think about things is your mindset. It's really important to note, though, that not every problem is rooted in mindset. And this idea that if you just fix your mindset, things will be fine is really frequently used to blame the victim, right? To make you wrong for what's happening with you. And so mindset, as is clear from the PR6 material, is really only one aspect of the resilience. It's a subset of the composure domain. Reasoning is another domain, the third of the 6 domains of resilience. And it includes creativity or problem solving, the ability to anticipate and plan, and it includes resourcefulness. So when you have worked on your emotional regulation, self-awareness, and mindset in the composure domain, then you have the foundation for the capacity to see opportunities and challenges and to apply your creativity to solve problems. Anticipating and planning relates to taking action ahead of time. And when you can do that, you can prevent things from going wrong in the first place, and you can have a plan for when things do go wrong. Resourcefulness involves acquiring the right information, tools, and techniques, and cultivating a network of people available to help. This is part of anticipating and planning, right? You have the resources you need in place to support you, both in the moment, over the long term, and when things are going poorly. The 4th domain is tenacity, which includes persistence, failing forward, and realistic optimism. In order to be resilient, or in other words, to advance despite adversity, we need to be willing to stay with a problem. And there's a famous Einstein quote who says that, I'm just going to paraphrase it, it's not that he was smarter than other folks, it was that he was more willing to stay with a problem for longer. And that resulted in the outcomes that you see, in Einstein's brilliance. Failing forward, this is an aspect of being able to mine failure for gold. The beauty of the challenges along the road is that they can build your resilience if you know how to mine your failures, in quotation marks, your failures for gold. And there's a link to an activity in the blog post that can help you do that. But I do want to make the point that, again, it's hard to experience or appreciate the beauty of the challenges when the crap is hitting the fan in this very moment. What's really important in the moment when your distress is high is to attend to your emotions and your distress. And once they have attenuated, once you've gotten care for that, then you can begin to appreciate what you might have learned from what has happened. But this is a longer term approach to tenacity that you can implement over the long term. Realistic optimism, as I mentioned earlier, supports you in saying to yourself, I know it's a tough road and there will be plenty of challenges, and I'm hopeful about my ability to succeed. And it's this attitude of realistic optimism that gives you the willingness to stay with the problem. And again, I just want to point out that many of these things are easier said than done. I'm pointing the way forward. I'm giving you some ideas and concepts to chew on. And it takes work and time to be able to implement these. And they're not a one and done. They're really ongoing practices. And the free download that's included in the transcript, which is linked in the show notes below, will help you in this process. So the second last domain is collaboration. That includes connection and support, boundaries, and perception. So individual and mutual connection is one way we can give ourselves experiences of safety, and this ties back to composure. A distressed mind is a dysregulated one, and that separates us from the skills we need so much as entrepreneurs. Giving and receiving support are also important aspects of resilience. And so having this network of individual and mutual reciprocal connection is an aspect of one of the earlier components of being anticipating and planning and being resourced, right? And this connection and support is an important element to build into your plans. Boundaries are key to healthy and supportive relationships. And so when you're asking for and giving support, it's important to get the context right so you can discern what's helpful to share and what's helpful to give in the moment when you're in your network of connection and support. And then in the domain of collaboration, perception plays an important role. it's really interesting to note that it's not actual available support that has an impact on your mindset and thus your resilience. It's your perception of support. So in my experience earlier in my life, support was all around me, but I had a belief that help was not available and that if I asked for help, it wouldn't come, and that asking for help actually resulted in harm to me. And this was the result of my childhood experience. I just learned to do it on my own. And that capacity to do it on my own, of course, serves me so well as an entrepreneur because I'm the leader, I'm the one wearing all the hats. And many of us going it alone, doing it on our own, being fiercely independent and autonomous is serves us very well. And at the same time, it can obscure the rest of the picture. And so learning to see things clearly can help you have a sense that you're working in a supportive environment. It's really important to work with the brain's negativity bias by regularly recalling your network and connections and reminding yourself that support's available, and to consistently tell yourself support is there for you. So again, the negativity bias, if you're curious, I've written about that and there's a link to that in the show notes. And for me, one of the things that has helped so much with perception is the practice of the field of care meditation practice from the compassionate, wait a second, I'm having a brain fart. Sustainable compassion training. And I'll include a link to that as well, but you can also search sustainable compassion or look for sustainablecompassion.org and find more about the practices there. And having a regular daily practice of being embedded in an embodied way, the sense of being embedded in this field of care, this network of support has sustained me through many, many challenges. The last domain of resilience is the health domain. Now, the PR6 research holds that there are 3 elements that support brain health: food, sleep, and movement. And along with vision, the PR6 research says that health is the second, it are the 2 parts of the foundations of resilience. And so the PR6 research advances that a healthy body and brain provides a strong foundation for resilience so that you can focus on your purpose and goals. So in the PR6 research, they identify adequate food, sleep, and movement as the 3 specific factors that have a direct impact on brain health and mental health. And brain health and mental health have a profound effect on your ability to take action toward your goals, right? I'm sure you've experienced this for yourself. It's really important to note, though, that the PR6 research has an inherent bias toward dominant concepts of health, but it's still important to note that supporting our bodies with nutrition, sleep, and movement is a component of being able to advance despite adversity. And the access to food, sleep, and movement, of course, occurs along a continuum and depends very much on social determinants of health. So this is a pointer to attend to within your capacity and your realm of access and privilege, food, sleep, and movement, because when you care for those, your mental awareness, your mental and emotional well-being will thrive, right? So as a resilience inventory, you can take a look at which of these components are your strengths and where are your gaps. And you can take the answers to these questions as you consider what supports you might want to put in place. And I'm a certified resilience coach through the folks who developed the PR6 research and set up the organization that conducted and published the peer review PR6 research studies. And if you would like support for growing your resilience skills, you might want to consider working with me, because as a business owner, you're stronger and more resilient with support. And if you would like to explore that a bit more, there's a link where you can book your free call to learn more about working together in the show notes below. So I'm the Entrepreneur's Therapist. Thanks so much for listening. And I'm on a mission to mitigate the entrepreneurial mental health course health crisis and transform the entrepreneurial ecosystem to include the whole human founder as a business priority. If you've gotten something valuable from this episode, you can support my mission by sharing this episode with friends who you think need to hear it, or for whom this information might be valuable. Subscribing, rating, and reviewing also helps mitigate the entrepreneurial mental health crisis. So you can do your part, making it possible for this podcast to reach more stressed out entrepreneurs who need support, validation, and tools to help them care for their mental and emotional well-being in this era of relentless stressors that can make you want to lose your crap on the daily. Thanks so much for listening.